What's up, guys? Today I'm going to attempt to make a splitter for my track car. I have an idea of how I want to put it together, so let me show you the parts I've gathered in an attempt to create my own splitter. The first part I picked up was the PCI splitter brackets. These are mounted to the OEM tow hook locations. I will not be using those, and I'll show you why I can't mount it to that location. But these have a quick disconnect where once this is mounted to the splitter itself, you'll be able to slide them on. They have two little hooks which attach onto these bolts right here, and then you can tighten the bolts up for added security, and it even has a slide pin. I picked up some plywood over at Lowe's. This was originally a 4x8 sheet, and I needed to fit in my car, so I had them cut it there. And they'll do that for free, so make sure you get the appropriate sizing. I had them cut it into 2 panels, and then I have an extra piece laying over there. That way I can make one splitter and still have enough for another one if I damage the first one. I picked up some angle aluminum. This is a 4-foot piece, and what I attempt to do with this, I'm going to cut it into little 1-inch brackets. That way I can use those around, say when the splitter is built, it's obviously going to go up and curved around. I want to build an air dam on the front of the car that slides right over the original lip and under the bumper. And what I meant by the air dam is I picked up, this is that garden edging you can buy. I got this one at Home Depot actually. They didn't have it at Lowe's. And this one is 5 inches in height. There's 20 feet of it, so more than enough if I make some mistakes. This is what I wanted to mount to the splitter, and I was thinking of bolting it to bolting the brackets to the splitter itself, and then riveting that edging all along the front of it, trying to create my dam. We're gonna find out if this is gonna work for me today. First, I'm gonna get my bumper removed. I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna mount those brackets. Before removing my bumper completely, I want to show you that I couldn't make the splitter to line up with the stock lip and the stock bumper. It is going to have to hang a little bit lower, and hence the reason why I want to create the air dam, because you'll see my traction bar here, you'll see the front of the header right there, and those obviously hang lower than the lip, so I do need that additional clearance. I'm hoping that air dam will cover the room and then even just cover the stock lip. I think it'll be cool to retain the lip, so when I'm done at the track I just pull it off and I don't gotta attach the stock lip, and then I can just slide it right back on. And here's a look at those splitter brackets. Let me show you how they work. Basically, you can loosen up the 2 19mm bolts. It even comes with nylocks on the reverse side, so that way once you're at the track and you bolt everything up, you can tighten everything down. But once you loosen those, you can slide this right off. So this is going to be attached to the car. You get this out of the way, and then your splitter slides right in, locks into place. Very easy, quick disconnect, and then you can just leave these on the car still. Now the brackets bolt up to most Hondas perfectly fine, but on an EF using the innovative bar, it doesn't go up high enough to get in there, so unfortunately that's why I'm going to have to mount it a little bit differently if I want to continue to use this bar, and I'm not about to change the traction bar. So what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to mount the brackets on the outside of the frame rail. There's enough of a lip here that I can have 2 riv nuts right here, and this one goes inside of it, so once I drill a hole there, it'll be perfect. A riv nut is kind of like create your own threaded bolt hole. We're going to drill a hole, you insert the riv nut, and you have a tool which squeezes this back and it creates it, so I think it'll be perfect. I can mount them. I'm going to kind of measure it, and it's nice because I can use this as a guide. I'll probably just keep it off that a little bit, center it, and I'll make sure I give it enough position, that way I can raise it and lower it a little bit. I don't want it to be like full high and then I can't go down any lower if I need to. So I'm going to kind of tinker around with that and see what position works best for me. And here I got the holes finished up. It's almost identical to the reverse side. Can you see in there? You can see the hole through where the tow hooks are. What I did, I had this up here and I measured it, and I put it basically at, like, this is as high as it can go, where it will be really close to the traction bar, so that way I have room basically to go down, because obviously I'm not going to be able to go up any farther. And also in doing that, like, this isn't exposed. These holes are actually inside the frame rail now, so the riv nut won't be poking out on the bottom side here. There was just a little bit of metal here, and you can feel it if you put your hand up. It stops like about right there. So that's why I measured it right there, and it seems to be the perfect fit. Now, I'm just gonna take the riv nuts, feed those in there, and compress them so I have my bolt holes finished up. And here, let me show you how this works. Now that it's in there, we need to pull the rivet out. We need to thread it on to the head of the riv nut gun. And then once you insert it, you need to pull on these handles. Whew, this one's tough. Oh, there we go. Okay. And then spin it out. And there's your riv nut. Here, I got all 3 riv nuts finished. Boy, that was kind of a workout, but got it done. And let's bolt up the bracket and take a look at it. And there it is, guys. It's cool because since the bolts aren't like super tight, if you need to move it around a little bit, you don't need to be perfectly precise. Although I have it lined up as straight as I could get it. And then, I thought I left them loose. There we go. Now if you want to adjust it lower, a little bit higher, you have that adjustability, which is really nice. And then, there we go. I'm going to move on to the other side, and then once I finish that, I'm going to start working on the plywood. So I got both brackets finished. They're bolted up. I measured them so they're just sitting a little bit below the traction bar. That way I can work with the wood paneling and see where I want to get positioned. I'm going to put the bumper on because I want to see how far I can go back with it. Plus with the header, I'm going to have to notch it so the header clears, because it does slide in quite a bit. Maybe you can see it down there. It's a little dark, but you can see where it ends and where my header is just barely bumping it. So with the bumper on, and it's not lifted completely, but I can still tell that I'm going to need to push it in a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and mark it where I need to notch it for the header, and then come back out here and see if I'm happy with the fitment there. And that came out perfect. The notch is more than enough room. I can always trim it if I need to. But now it sits a little further back here, which is what I wanted to do. Essentially, and I can always make this shorter if need be. I'd rather have more than enough than not enough, because I can always just get my jigsaw out and modify it very, very quickly. Since I'm happy with the fitment, now I'm just going to lift this up and I'm going to get the holes drilled. We're going to get the splitter mounted to the brackets. Okay, I got the splitter mounted now. I drilled all the holes and put the mounting hardware on. I got it sitting where I like it. So now I need to attempt to get that air dam mounted, and also need to determine where I want to cut it. I think I'm going to do the air dam first. That way I can get all the drilling out of the way and I can see exactly how much length I want to cut. Then I can just measure it all the way out on the edge of it, maybe like 3-4 inches depending on how far I want to go. And here, guys, I want to show you what I meant by creating that air dam. See, this thing actually is going to fit perfect, it looks like. The height is great. I'm going to have to just do some... I noticed this particular kind of garden edging, if you bend it, it'll actually stay. Like, this was really curved. I bent it in reverse and it kind of flattened out. So I'll probably mess with that a little more. And when I push it up here, it looks nice. It looks like it'll fit exactly where I want it to. But I think I'm going to have to remove the front lip. The lip bulges out on the bottom, and it seems to be pushing it out further than I'd want it. I'd like it to sit more flush with the bumper. So I'm going to remove it really quickly and see if it sits a little bit more flush. I don't necessarily need the front lip on there. I just like having it on there when I'm just driving the car regularly, but it's not often, and if that creates a better fitment with this dam, I'm just going to leave the front lip off. And so what do you guys think about that? I trimmed the edges. I used some C-clamps to hold it in position, and I'm very, very happy. It's coming out exactly how I wanted it to come out, and I couldn't be more happy with the fitment so far. And I just kind of wrapped it around. I cut the piece off, left myself a little bit of extra slack on this side just to make sure I didn't make it too short. So now I need to mount it to the splitter itself. That way it's going to be attached to the splitter, and it's going to be an air dam splitter combo. I may even put some silicone on the bottom of it. I don't know though, from the vibrations and everything and from the mounting brackets, it may not need it. But coming out exactly how I had it pictured in my head. Very excited about that. Let's get back to work. Let's get the little L beam that I showed you that I want to make the little brackets. That way I can have rivets all along the edge of it. That little green line that was there, I'm just gonna leave it. I actually doesn't bother me at all. It looks kind of cool. I was thinking about painting it, but that's gonna look terrible. Once this starts seeing rocks and stuff hitting it, it's gonna be all chipped up. So I'm gonna leave that alone. I will paint the plywood black though. It's gonna be a matte black. Try to match it. But I'm gonna leave the rest of the finish alone on it. I think it's durable enough to withstand some of the abuse of the track. And here's what I meant about using that L-beam. Cut these little like 1-inch brackets, and I'm going to mount those all along the bottom of the splitter itself, and then I'll probably use some flush hardware on the reverse side with a bolt and a nut on top, and then for the front I think I'm just going to use rivets. Drill a hole and rivet the air dam to the splitter. Now that I got all of the little brackets made, I kind of lined them up. I centered this one right here with the center of the splitter, and I just kind of spaced them out evenly. It doesn't need to be absolutely perfect, but I do want to look really, really similar in terms of the spacing. So drill the hole. I'm going to start mounting all of these. I have some hardware that I'm using, and I'm using these screws which have the flush head, so that way they'll kind of sit and they'll be really, there shouldn't be much sticking out on the bottom of the splitter. I want as little as possible sticking out there. Here I got all of the brackets bolted down. I didn't have to spend any money on the hardware. I had a bunch, as you can see over there on the floor. I have a lot of hardware remaining from just working on cars, and let me show you the bottom side, how it looks. It looks really nice because everything is very flush. All of those screws and the mounting brackets are very flush with the splitter itself. And what I did was drill holes in every little bracket, and with the air dam on there, I'm just going to start at one end and then start pushing it flush onto each corner, and I'll drill the hole and then apply the rivet. Alright dudes, check it out. It's actually super sturdy with all the rivets in. It's lined up pretty well. I might be able to mess with it a little bit when I have it on the car, but I'm going to test fit it now. And here it is, fit on the car, guys. I'm actually very happy with this. Of course, since it's been curled up, I think with my heat gun I could heat this, bend this in a little bit closer here, maybe around the front, but I think if I just pull this piece out, it'll be tight there. But it actually sits pretty nice. This one too, it's a little rounded. I think I need to work with that. But overall, I think it looks fantastic, and I think the finished product is going to be excellent. I'm ready to cut off the excessive wood. And I wasn't sure how far I wanted to go, but I figured it's better to do too much because I can always go in later. So this is about 4 inches. This one is 5 inches from the lip. From the top of the bumper, it sticks out considerably, maybe like 2-3 inches. I can't imagine going any farther. I don't know if I need to. I'm going to try this out. This is my first time making a splitter, and we're going to just live with that. If not, I can always get out that other piece of wood I have over there and make a longer one if I feel that's necessary. And here's a look at it over the weekend. When I started painting it, I went ahead and finished it up, did both sides. And I used about 2 cans of paint. I used the Rust-Oleum. It was a satin black, so I like the color of it. I think it'll be nice. It's a little dusty because it's been really dusty out here lately, but I think overall the splitter looks sharp in the way that it is. But now what I want to do, went to Lowe's, I picked up some, this is that polyurethane. This is a black one. It's nice because this one expands and contracts with the material, so I think it'll be perfect for the splitter. I'm just going to run a fine seam all along the base of it. That way, you can see right here, see how there's like gaps in between? I want to make it so it's an airtight seal right there. That way, if the air dam is actually functioning as it should, none of the air should be sliding in there, it should be just shooting it off the edges of the air dam and the splitter itself. With the urethane finished up, it came out really nice. Tried to be as clean as possible and applying it just one time all the way around the edge. I think I did a pretty good job of doing that. I was looking on the back side. Maybe you can see it over here that it's kind of coming through a little bit, so I think I put just the right amount on there to fill that seam. So I'm gonna let this dry over the next couple of days, guys, and I will get you a couple lasting images when I get it put on the car. I'm going to mount it up. I'm going to try to heat up the air dam itself and bend in the corners where it needs to be. I noticed as I left it out and I had it upside down, sitting on the air dam, kind of took a little bit of a different shape and wasn't sitting super close to the bumper. So I think I just need to massage that a little bit, but it still looks really, really nice. And here's that final look, guys. I'm going to put it on the car really quickly, but I just want to show you how you're supposed to use the nylocks and the mounts on the car. So those nylocks go on the reverse side of the bolt, and you're not supposed to tighten this one. I think I was saying that earlier in the video, you're going to tighten it, but that's going to make it a lot more difficult for it to be a quick release. You're just going to use the slide pin. These are the guides for the mounts itself, and then we're just going to put the slide pin in. That way, if you do need to remove it at the track, you don't have to be digging out and getting your tools, especially if you're in your car and you slide off track and it gets damaged. So when I got it, they had forgotten 2 of the nylocks. I have 2 of them that I will put on. I'm just going to put 1 on each side on the front. I'm also going to put Loctite on both bolts. I have them out a certain distance right now. I think it's enough for the splitter to fit. I'm going to test it, make sure it fits. Then I'm going to put some Loctite in there and just let them sit, so that way these will not move at all. I don't think with a Loctite it's going to vibrate loose, because they're not super tight to begin with. But with Loctite in there and the splitter mounted, I don't think they're gonna rattle loose at the track during the hard driving and all the vibrations from the car itself. And that's how easy it is to get on. I just wanted to demonstrate that for you very quickly. Sometimes just lining it up, making sure they're around the washers is the hardest part. And then just applying the slide pin. But here's a lasting look at it. It really wasn't a completely DIY project because I did need the splitter brackets. But for those of you trying to build it yourself and maybe having access to more tools or machines to, like say for instance, this is the original tow hook. You could use these as your mounts if you're able to devise something that allows you to extend these, or use this as a template and then have it cut out a piece of metal and then a bracket. I'm sure you could figure something out with some sort of like L-shaped steel and bolting them up. You could essentially have, let me see, in my head right now I'm thinking like a solid piece of rectangular steel, drill the 3 holes that mount the same, and then on the bottom you could use an L-beam of steel, drill the 2 holes into it and into the L-beam, and that L-beam will come down and out, and you could have that mounted to your splitter on both sides. So it could be a lot less expensive. I wanted to do it with the quick release. This necessarily would be a little bit more difficult because you'd have to unbolt it, but if you're leaving it on your car, if it's a dedicated track car, it wouldn't be an issue. You can just leave it on there all the time, remove it only when needed. So that would be an alternative to spending the money that you spent on those splitter brackets. Those splitter brackets are about $175 online at any given time. So overall, this project cost me about $250. It was paid $170. Well, I think it was $177 online for the splitter brackets. Paid $30 for the garden edging. Paid $40 for the plywood, and that aluminum beam, I paid $10 for that. So it was like $255-ish total. But overall, really happy with it, and I hope it helps with potentially cutting some time at the track, making the car just a little bit more faster. And that'll be it for today's video, guys. Hope you enjoyed the content, and we'll see you next week. Take care.